designed to do. If you're going to do something to nullify or take away my rights under the Constitution, come get it.
Max McGuire.
When you look at politicians on the left, they need to convince people that they are victims.
A resistance to the resistance. And now your hosts, Joe Otto and Max McGuire.
And welcome back to another edition of the Conservative Daily Podcast. My name is Max McGuire. Joined back in the studio again is Joe Otto. Joe, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you guys doing? You guys meaning good. I have Josh in front of me too.
Yeah. Good.
We're a little late today, but
yeah, a little bit late. But we want to talk about the CHAZ, the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, the area of Seattle where liberals and Antifa protesters have just declared themselves to be an autonomous country. And we want to get to that because there's some really funny stuff to talk about. But before we get to that, I want to briefly talk about this push to rename American military bases. There's a bill that was just introduced, an amendment that was introduced by Elizabeth Warren, and
of course it
was pushed through committee by Republicans. The Republicans actually held a voice vote and approved the amendment, a voice vote, so they don't have to actually record how they voted. The only Republican on the committee who voted no was Josh Hawley. Everyone else voted yes, and they just didn't want to have to go on the record. This bill would basically take things like Fort Bragg and Fort Hood, these military bases named after Americans who did fight on the side of the Confederacy, but of Americans who also had heroic military service on the American side before and after the war as well. Trying to take these names down, and it's really pathetic. Joe, I know you have experience when it comes to like reconciliation work. I have to ask myself what it says about us as a country that there's less empathy, there's less desire for reconciliation, for coming together now than there was in the immediate aftermath of the Civil War. I mean, we're talking about tearing down monuments that the survivors of the Civil War agreed to put up, not to glorify the Confederacy, but in an attempt to have reconciliation, an attempt to bring the country back together and actually fulfill Lincoln's promise that a house divided by itself cannot stand. You have to unite. So I look at this and I have to ask what it says about us as a country, that there is more, that there's this attempt to posthumously punish Civil War soldiers. It's very pathetic. And I know, Joe, you've done work in reconciliation in the past, and you know that it's oftentimes harder to pursue reconciliation than it is to pursue retribution. I just can't believe that Democrats today are asking for blood when the actual people who fought, died, and were wounded and had livelihoods ruined during the Civil War, they turn the other cheek. It's just incredible.
Well, this is not Democrats don't know anything about forgiveness. They actually don't know anything about maintaining history, right? And honoring the good parts of history. They only concentrate on the negative, right? It's always negative.
Yeah.
And they want to make excuses for everyone's behavior, and they want to do things that contradict or create something contradictory, a narrative that contradicts reality. And until we get to the point where we're willing to stand up to them and punch them in the mouth, and I mean figuratively punch them in the mouth and call them what they are, instead of taking the high road, we have to stop taking the high road. The Democrats do not take the high road. They don't take the high road. The loony left does not take the high road. They have hijacked the liberal agenda, which used to be just left of center, right? And the right is right of center. And typically those are the 80% of our population sits in that right of center, left of center environment. You have the loony left and the loony right that are actually making decisions for us. And that is what is represented in leadership, is because they want to create this popular idea that we can latch onto. Yeah.
I would push back and I would say that there actually isn't anyone in the loony right making decisions for us. I can't name a single person in power.
But there is a loony right. There is a loony right that gets the narrative. That narrative gets told over and over again, right?
They're not in a position of power whatsoever.
Correct.
They've been so ostracized. It's the Democrats, the far left, and it's the cowards in the Republican Party who won't even stand for something as simple as saying, no, we're not going to rename 10 military bases because an unarmed black man was killed in Minneapolis. That's what we're basically being told. And listen, I don't defend the Confederacy. I was born and raised in New Jersey. I'm not a good old boy, right? But this idea that we're going to whitewash history and we're just going to erase our history. We are who we are because of our scars.
Where did the history
right?
start, right? If you want to know where all this whitewashing happened, it happened over in the Middle East. That is actually where it actually started. They took down statues. They did everything they could to get rid of history over in the Middle East. That happened.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
literally about a decade ago.
Yeah, I mean, toppling Saddam's statue. That's it's very popular.
And
going back.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, just like even if you look at what happens in like Iran or what happened in ISIS, where they would go into old temples, old UNESCO World Heritage sites, where they were just like ancient ruins, and they just destroyed them just because they don't want that history to be preserved. What we're seeing today is that same kind of impulse. The idea of if we have anything up there that we disagree with, that means we're glorifying it. No. You don't leave these monuments up to glorify the Confederacy. You put these monuments up, you leave them up so that people can learn the history, right? I was reading something about a city in Virginia where all these years they've kept up the actual auction block that they used to sell slaves. They actually kept it up with a plaque, making sure people understood that these were the horrible things that were happening in this very spot. Human beings were being bought and sold. They kept that up not to glorify slavery, but to make sure that we never go back to that, right? We remember it. Unless you remember history, you're doomed to repeat it. They're now tearing up that auction block because it's offensive. It's just, if you defend having that auction block there, you're not supporting slavery. You just want to make sure we all remember the horrible things that happened. It's so illogical.
And it doesn't. But the issue is that we're not talking about logic. There's no logic in anything that they're doing or saying, right? There's no logic that we're allowing. We're saying, let's just give them a little bit of room, like what's happening in Seattle. Yeah. Give them a little bit of room. You can't give people who are illogical, are selfish, right, are fascists that act like they're anti-fascist. They're not anti-fascist. They're fascists. These are terrible, spoiled people that don't want to work, right? Don't want to contribute to society. They only care about themselves. Well, they turn around and say, "Poor me, poor me, poor me," and they oh man.
Yeah, the challenge with the fight over the military bases and the monuments and the paintings. Nancy Pelosi wants to take down paintings for anyone who happened to be on the Confederate side. There are people who were war heroes before the Civil War, right? You look at Bragg, the gentleman that Fort Bragg is named after. He was a war hero in the Mexican-American War. Braxton Bragg. He was a war hero. Right. So the idea that we're just going to forget everything that they did for this country before and after the Civil War, it's very tyrannical. But the reason that we push back against this is not because we're pro-Confederacy. It's twofold. One, we don't want them to get rid of this history, because if you forget your history, you're doomed to repeat it. But two, if you give ground on this, ground on this issue, the next step will be to come for people like Washington, Jefferson, Madison, patriots, because they're already talking about that, right? You saw what they did to Christopher Columbus. They're not just going for Confederate monuments. They want to tear down them all. So if you give into this childish behavior, you end up legitimizing it, and you're just going to fight back against this more and more, which is a great segue into this Capitol Hill autonomous zone. Now, Joe, I know you've been watching what's going on in Seattle. There's a 6-block portion of Seattle where protesters have now declared their independence. They've declared that they are no longer in the United States. You are now leaving the United States. That's what the signs say as you enter this CHAZ, is what they're calling it. This is insane. If you didn't, I understand the argument that Trump shouldn't use the military against protesters. We agree. But declaring an autonomous zone within the United States is literal insurrection. And yeah, there's a lot of people there peaceful. There's also people there armed, which we'll show in a bit. Armed insurrection. Declaring an independent nation of CHAZ. If you don't want Trump to use the Insurrection Act, don't do this, because the president is actively talking about putting this down if the mayor of Seattle and the governor don't do it first. So let's throw up this tweet. This is what Trump said about the CHAZ. Let's go to image 1. This is a press release that Trump put out. The radical governor Jay Inslee and the mayor of Seattle are being taunted and played at a level that our great country has never seen before. Take back your city now. If you don't do it, I will. This is not a game. These ugly anarchists must be stopped immediately. Move fast. To which Mayor Durkin, Jenny Durkin, responded, and you can throw up image 2. She responded to Trump by saying, make us all safe, go back to your bunker. That's a very mature response to literal insurrection within her city. And Joe, it's not just setting up a block party. She calls this a block party. The mayor calls it the summer of love is happening in the CHAZ.
So you know I have a friend that owns
abandoned.
You know I have a friend
abandoned a police precinct.
You know I have a friend that has a business inside of that 6 blocks.
Oh,
right?
he's in the
He's
CHAZ?
inside of it. And the conversation that I had with him was this. He called me and I go, look, let's take you live. Just give me a live video feed. Let me actually put it out there so that people can see it. He goes, Joe, I can't. He described to me, and I actually recorded his conversation. I said, look, I'm going to record you because I'm not going to remember all this. So I recorded the conversation I had with him. He made me swear. He goes, Joe, they will literally take my business. Yeah. These people are crazy. And I go, well, how does everybody else feel? And he goes, they think he's crazy too, but they can't say anything. They are scared. And they're scared because when they have to walk through the barriers, when they go outside the 6 city blocks, or they're coming in because they live outside the 6 city blocks and they have businesses in there, they have to prove that they have businesses. At one checkpoint, they said, okay, if you can't prove that you need to get a note. So you need to have them email it to you. You need to get out of here, and you need to have somebody inside the 6 blocks email us the fact that you belong in this 6 blocks. They ask them questions like, do you support what we're doing? If you say no, you can't come in there. You can't come in, right? If you say no and you own a business and they find out what business you have, they're taking over those businesses. They're breaking into those businesses and taking them over.
There's also reports of extortion where
this is the best part.
Basically pressuring them into paying them for
protection.
protection.
Just said this. He had somebody from their insurrection, whatever you want to call it, right? The CHAZ, that came in and said, you no longer have to pay taxes in the state.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to pay taxes. You have to pay us 20% of every dollar that you actually make inside this deal. And if you don't, we're going to shut you down. They actually walked into his business and said this. And people are saying that this is okay. This mayor is saying that they get to destroy the lives of people who have businesses within those 6 city blocks. Yeah. You think those businesses can survive? They're out there begging for food. Hey, bring us food. Right? Oh, set up and do whatever you want. Kumbaya. Let's go sit on the lawn inside of the park. Right? Let's take over the police precinct. Let's burn cars in our 6 city blocks, which is what they've done. Let's burn cars. Oh, on top of burning cars, that's not enough. Right? We're going to spray paint buildings and put our logos everywhere, destroy and deface everything that we
Keep going. Throw up image 5, Mr. Producer. This is a security guard at their border checkpoint, which it never ceases to amaze me how they complain about borders whenever Trump does it. But the first thing that they did after creating their autonomous zone was to put military on their border. This is one of the protectors. And you mentioned that they lost all their food. Let's throw up image number 3. This was a tweet that came out. Some people are saying that this tweet is fake.
That's not fake.
The homeless people were invited, took away all the food. We need more food. Please, if possible, bring vegan meat substitutes, fruits, oats, soy products, etc. Anything to help us eat. And now throw up image number 4. I find this hilarious. This is the CHAZ's community garden. Instead of actually digging up the grass and trying to put down topsoil and actually burying and actually planting their crops, they put down cardboard on top of grass, sprinkled some topsoil on top of the cardboard, and then basically just plop their plants right on top of the topsoil. A moderate rainstorm will basically wash all of those plants away. And even if they did survive, that's enough food to feed one person for maybe a day. And like half of what I'm seeing there is basil.
that is the craziness that we're up against. Well, first of all, they stopped teaching civics, right? They stopped teaching to civics in school. So people don't understand history, so they're willing to whitewash it. The first person inside of an education institution says that's racist. They're like, that's racist. Let's run. Let's get rid of it. Oh, it's got to go, right? There's no sensibility to what we're dealing with today. None.
Yeah.
They have weaponized technology. They have weaponized education. All the way down into our high schools, middle schools, right? They have weaponized our infrastructure for legislation. They've weaponized it, right? They've allowed for organizations, lobbyist groups. They write all the bills. They don't go back to their communities. It used to be this. At every level. You are elected by the people to represent the interests of the people. So what happened was, in history, is that you would go to Washington or you would go to the State House, right? And you would go to the State House and you would go back to your community and say, what do you need? Like, what can we help you with? What can I go represent you for at the State House and or Congress? And so you would go to Congress and they would write bills. And if you read any of the bills that happened, 150 years ago, they were much more simplistic, written in a fair amount of Old English, right? But they were
easy
to understand. They actually
you didn't need a law degree to understand what the law was.
Right. And now here we are. Fast forward, we have Big Pharma writing bills for us. We have. I mean, every industry, even the oil industry, right? They're all writing bills and then walking over to the people that are hired to represent the people, right? They're elected. They're taking it to Washington and saying, "Oh, I co-sponsor this bill." Well, how does that represent the people? How? And then you got clowns like the CHAZ coming out of nowhere. They're clowns. They're a bunch of clowns. Right. But I want to tell you what's about to happen. I'm going to tell everyone on this thing. First of all, I want to say this. If you're listening to this podcast, I want you to share it. Right? So Facebook has weaponized this. I want you to share it. I want you to tell your friends to share it. I want you to keep sharing the podcast. Share it on your Facebook page. If you're on YouTube, share it in YouTube. Pick it up, put it down, let people hear the message. That there are lots of people that feel the same way. Don't let Facebook weaponize what we're doing. Don't let Facebook stop us from sharing a message that is mainstream, that they're trying to suppress so that the 3% or 4% of these loony people, or 10%, whatever it is, can win. Share this. Share this post. Share this podcast.
Share, like it, comment. We do read the comments. Mark Wilson wrote in, I think this is pretty funny. He says, "Now, I'm not saying that Joe Biden is a racist." This is out of nowhere. "I'm not saying that Joe Biden is a racist, but I've never seen him sniffing any black women or children." Interesting enough, Mark, we don't have the clip right now, but Joe Biden has bragged about black children rubbing his leg hair when he used to be a lifeguard, and how he loved it when the black children would jump on his lap. Now, I'm not saying that Joe Biden isn't a racist, but there is at least some evidence out there that he does like that.
Share. I should see the shares go up from, what is this, 3 now to 30, 40. And we have a lot of people that are on Podbean. Did I say that right? Podbean?
Yes.
Podbean and Apple that come back and they listen to it, right? They listen to the podcast. So they can't see some of the pictures on those areas as well. But in sharing it, what you're doing is you're actually allowing the message to get out, right? Because Facebook is stopping us from doing it.
Yeah.
They're literally doing everything they can to suppress
I'll say
normal voice.
I'll say this. We need to get this message out there because liberals are actually pretending that this isn't happening. I want to go to this cut. This is the Governor Jay Inslee, the governor of Washington State, being asked what he thought about CHAZ, and he didn't even know what was happening. He wasn't even told that there was an autonomous region of a city where armed guards are basically declaring independence. Let's go to this cut one. This is Jay Inslee saying he doesn't know what he's talking about, wants to make sure it's really happening before he comments. Let's go to cut one.
Governor, I'd like to ask you about what's going on in Seattle. There's this thing called the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. What's your thought on that? The fact that the protesters have taken that over and not allowing people to come and go freely? And I hope regarding that regard.
Well, that's news to me, so I'll have to reserve any comment about it. I have not heard anything about that from any credible source.
Brain dead.
Not that you're not credible. It's just like before I espouse an opinion, I should know of which I speak.
Yeah, that's far as the National Guard, how long are you going to keep them there? And if there is a takeover of a street in Seattle where they're barricading, keeping people out, the protesters are, would you want the government to be involved?
You know, that's a hypothetical. Look, we've got to have safety. I'm sure that people will find a way to have public safety everywhere in the state. I'm confident of that. The National Guard is demobilizing. Over 2/3 of them were demobilized of yesterday. I don't know if they're completely demobilized at this point or not, but if not, that'll be shortly, I believe.
So, two things. One, the sign language interpreter, I'm not sure what song he's listening to in his head, but if you watch that, he's bouncing up and down the whole time. He's more into it than any sign language interpreter I've ever seen. But two, beyond Inslee saying that he never even heard of this, what he says at the end is that he's confident that people will be able to find a way to have public safety anywhere in the state, when the reality is that the 3rd precinct, which is in the CHAZ, was abandoned at the instruction of the mayor's office. The police department took all of their valuables, they took all of their evidence, they took all of their equipment, they abandoned their police precinct, and they boarded up the walls. And the response time for 911 calls have gone from 5 minutes now to 18 minutes because this precinct is not operational. I want to play this clip and then get your opinion on it, Joe. Let's go to cut 3. This is the police chief, Carmen Best, talking about how she was forced to basically withdraw from the precinct and talking about the consequences of it. Let's go to cut 3.
Our 911 response times have tripled in the area. They've gone from just over 5 minutes to about 18 minutes. Rapes, robberies, and all sorts of violent acts have been occurring in the area that we're not able to get to. So it is not right for us not to be able to deploy our officers here.
Chief Best spoke with protesters several times, and she and command staff evaluated the building and found someone did breach the facility.
There is some damage, and it clearly is a mess around here, so we need to do a lot of cleanup.
Unbelievable.
So the governor says he's confident that people will be able to have public safety, but he won't bring the National Guard in, and the mayor actually ordered the police to withdraw. So where's the who's going to be the one doling out justice? Who's going to be the one ensuring that we have safe streets in Seattle? It's apparently CHAZ, which CHAZ already has its first warlord, believe it or not. It took them all of a day to have their utopia, and they already have a warlord, an armed warlord. It's incredible.
If we don't, and I'm going to say this, and I have some news. So everyone, I just want you to know we have some news, and that news is going to be it's going to be. Sorry, I'm just sharing something really quick. That news is that there are about 200 to 300 ex-military guys that are talking from around the country. And I happen to get on that call, right? Because I know a bunch of people in those areas. So I have a bunch of those guys getting together, and they said, "Hey, listen, we're all going to pack our rucks. We're going to go to Seattle, right? We're going to be heavily armed, and here's how they're going to handle it, right? Ready? They said we're gonna, and I'm telling you what's going to happen. And by the way, there's no way that the United States doesn't know this is about to happen." When you take over and terrorize other people that are Americans, all bets are off, right? You've declared war against other Americans. The police don't have to legally do anything. 300 ex-SF guys, Special Forces guys, showing up, and they're going to walk up and they're going to talk to that whatever that is, the warlord wearing the gun on his chest, and they're going to tell him,
warlord,
we're going to go tell the police, and we're going to tell them what we're about to do. Well, we're going to be back. We're not going to tell you when we're coming back. But we're going to come back and we're going to kill all of you. We're literally going to.
Don't say that. Don't say that.
No. This is what they've said. This is why this has gotten dangerous. And they basically said that if you're going to terrorize, and what you just heard, rape and pillage, you just heard it. The police chiefs say this.
Violent crimes are up 300%. She was saying. Daniel Godwin just wrote in. Just send a Trump rally there. And that would all disperse. I think that's a great idea.
No, listen. You need to understand that this is happening. You can agree with it or not agree with it. I don't care if you agree with it or don't agree with it. I don't care, right? What I will tell you is that they're saying this is actually what's happening. Like I was on this call that you're going to have a bunch of SF guys and ex-military guys. They're going to show up in Seattle. They're going to walk up to the guy. They're all going to be heavily armed, and they're going to just tell him, look, we're going to go tell them what we're going to do, right? We're going to tell the police, if you can't handle it, we'll handle it, right? But we're telling you right now, we're coming back, and when we come back, we're going to neutralize the situation. We're going to take care of all of you, right? And anyone in here that's still left, and if these barricades are here when we come back, all bets are off. Now, listen, you can disagree with that, but we've gotten to the point where they say, oh, you can't throw tear gas, right? We're fighting for the rights. You're not fighting for anything when you're burning down your own community, extorting money from people, doing things to hurt the community, hurt the people that are hardworking Americans. Like, we already had coronavirus. They already shut us down unconstitutionally, right? So we had that excuse. Now you have the fact that they're saying, oh, yeah, we're going for equal rights. This is not equal rights when you're extorting people, burning buildings, burning cars, asking people to give you free food.
It's crazy that we've reached this point where there is a 6-block area, and as we showed, if these people don't get shut down, they're going to starve to death, right? You go online to their forums where they're talking, and they're having debates over what their flag should look like before they figure out how they're going to feed themselves.
Right.
They put up the barricades before they realize that no one inside had a gun yet. This thing is doomed to fail. These people are idiots. We showed the picture of their attempt at farming. Listen, I don't know anything about farming, but I'm able to produce more food out of my backyard garden than these idiots will be able to produce there. They're gonna fail, right? And we don't want bloodshed. We don't want loss of life. You don't need that. All you need are the police to actually enforce the laws, right? You can't just turn a city park into a commune. What they're trying to do there is they're trying to turn this 6-block radius essentially into a new Occupy Wall Street, where they're just this is gonna be our territory now. And the Seattle mayor, the governor of Washington, they're saying that first they said they didn't even know what was happening. Now they're saying it's just like a block party. It's a summer of love. Just leave them alone. And again, yeah, you have police, you have business owners being like terrorized. You have property being vandalized. They broke into the police precinct and vandalized that.
Right.
It shouldn't have to get to this point. Right. And all eyes shouldn't be on the president, because the Pentagon is actually pushing back against Trump saying, go in there and break this up. Even the Pentagon higher ups are saying, no, you got to let these people do what they're doing. No, you don't. You don't have to let them just take over 6 city blocks.
No,
I want to play this clip, because what's amazing to me is that for years we've heard that border walls are racist, that borders themselves are racist, and that anyone who wants to impose a border and block the free movement of individuals are themselves racist. I want to put up this clip because this is the citizens of CHAZ going all over the city of Seattle to try and get whatever fencing and barricades they can to create their new little leftist utopia. This is them finding and bringing back chain link fence. Let's go to cut 4.
Appropriate.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
This fence has been appropriated. Okay, yeah. We got to make sure that the proletariat has the fruit of their own labor. Now, it's ridiculous. These people are idiots. These people are launching a revolution based on what they read in their books and their college classrooms. There's no farmers there. There was someone who offered to send them a cow. And thank God they didn't, because that cow would have been dead within a week. These people don't know how to milk a cow.
No.
And they're asking for soy. They're not even willing to just eat whatever it takes to survive. They're asking for soy-based meat substitutes.
Does everyone not see this as what are you going to do for a living? Like, what's the next step for you, right? You're going to take 20% from the businesses there, who, by the way, are already suffering? You're going to take 20%
They're taking
from
donations.
them?
They're taking donations.
No, they're not. They told
Online,
my friend.
They also are doing that. They're also taking donations.
But they literally are going to businesses saying 20%. And I actually know what's happening, right? I actually know what's happening, because actually my friend told me this. He goes, I've been asked to give names on the outside, right? And they're just collecting names. And when this is done, they're going to arrest every single person, right, in that deal that is even associated with it. And what these guys in the CHAZ don't realize is that it's just a strike.
Yeah.
They're getting testimony, strike.
Kicking it off, yeah.
So that when this actually does come to pass, and by the way, those 200 to 300 patriots, those 200 to 300 people that served their country in foreign soil, right, and defended this nation, they're coming. So if you're on the CHAZ, they're coming. Now, I don't actually know if they're actually going to go tell anyone, but I'm going to tell you right now, they're 100% coming. They're coming. So they've decided. And when you get on a call with these guys, and I'm saying to myself, oh, man, these are 300 guys that literally fought and basically risked their lives. If you don't think they would risk their lives for an American on American soil because you have anarchists and terrorists, domestic terrorists, stealing, robbing, raping, if you do not think they will come in there and neutralize every one of you, you haven't been paying attention to history. You haven't been paying attention to the 58,000 people that died in Vietnam.
Well,
you haven't been paying attention.
I want to throw this up because not everyone is enjoying what the CHAZ is doing. And I laugh every time I hear the CHAZ. You would think if you're going to create a new utopian country, you come up with a better acronym than CHAZ. But again, they're more interested in what their flag's going to look like than how they'd actually run this utopia. This is a video of a woman, basically. She took control of the mic at one of their little powwow drum circle sessions. And
drum circle, I love that.
And she's basically berating them. And every time someone tries to take the microphone, she says, no, 6 feet, get back. And they instinctively say, oh, I can't get within 6 feet of you. And then they try and take the microphone. It's great. It's 2 minutes long, but I want to play it in its entirety because she is ripping them for what they're doing. Let's go to cut 5.
Follow us. You know what the thing is? You have hijacked it. You have taken the meaning away.
You cannot portray the image and make the image because of you.
What you like, go for it. Don't try to shut the black community out.
I'm black myself.
Oh, but you have your phone.
Wow. She said I'm not black. What am I?
The thing about it is, the bickering and back and forth. What kind of change do you get from bickering and back and forth? Matter of fact, let me take this motherfucking mask off. What kind of change do you get from bickering back and forth? We can all check this out. I'm not done talking, boy. I'm not done. Bring facts on the mic. I'm not done. You gonna let me talk? I got the mic. Hush. Like I said, no, I ain't done. 6 feet, man. 6 feet.
You gotta be kidding. That's gonna be a video all by itself.
You want to take folk up there? What you want to do at Birch Red Apple? What you gonna do? If this is supposed to be a peaceful protest, then you know what? Use your words and your pen. Then go ahead and write a review, write a complaint. Do what you gotta do. But taking a bunch of folk up there to riot and do all that, what does that solve? Nada. No. Didn't I say 6 feet? Didn't I say 6 feet? You got 2 more to go. You got 2 more to go. You got 2 more to go. I'm not gonna say it again. Check this out. Hold on. I'm not here to answer questions. I'm simply here to say, what does the bickering back and forth do? If everybody is here for a peaceful protest, then give people a chance to speak. Not everybody is going to have the same opinion, but everybody gets to get up and talk. I don't agree with this man. He a black man. I don't mean I got to agree with him, but I got to let him talk. It's like he got to let somebody else talk. Okay. We are all here to say what's on our minds and our hearts. I'm not done. No, you can't, because this ain't a Q&A. 6 feet. 6 feet.
Oh my gosh! Could they hear us laughing? Could they hear us laughing while we're playing this? Could they actually hear it? Oh man, I wanted to give commentary while she was talking.
I love the 6 feet, and I said, "That's 4. You got 2 more to go. You got 2 more to go." I'm not going to say it again.
But they're eating their own. They're eating their own. Look at what's happening. They're eating their own. that nobody agrees there. You want to know why? She actually made a little bit of sense, right? Use your pen, right? But holding people hostage, like taking away from your community, what is this?
Yeah.
You want to go out there and riot? You know,
Here's the great thing.
And the fact that she's brave enough to stand in the middle of all those people, that's my girl right there. That's my girl. 6 feet. But they actually backed up.
Yeah, they did. They did, because they don't know whether it's riot season or if it's COVID season. They still haven't decided. When Trump wants to rally, it's COVID season. When Democrats want to rally, it's riot season. They haven't. It's literally like the Looney Tunes thing: duck season, rabbit season. They can't determine it. Here's the best thing in my mind. Since that video, this is obviously fair use because we're talking about it. We're only using the bare minimum necessary to show what she was talking about, and we're discussing it, active commentary. The great thing is, since that video was captured in the CHAZ does not have any copyright laws that I actually know of. So for a CHAZ citizen to take video of it, I don't know of any copyright requirements. So I guess we could technically play that without commentary. Lots of things we're going to have to figure out with the CHAZ. Lots of things they're going to have to figure out themselves because they can't even figure out how to feed themselves. They can't even figure out basic sanitation. It was so funny. Seattle is actually sending in sanitation workers to clean up the CHAZ. I was watching a guy on Tucker Carlson who described it as the first instance of international aid to the CHAZ, bringing in garbage trucks to clean up their filth. They have no idea how to run a society. They have no idea how to actually build anything. It's going to fail miserably, which is why I don't even think those guys you were talking about would ever even get there. I have a feeling that these people are going to fail on their own.
They're already there.
I think they're going to fail on their own. I think they're going to fail on their own.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you right now, I hope they're listening. I hope they are listening. I hope somebody who is, I hope someone who is an anarchist slash fascist, anti-fascist, whatever you want to call yourself, I hope you're listening because they're coming, right? And let me just tell you something else. The second you took people hostage and you extorted them and you did the things that you did to the people that live and work within that 6 city blocks and you put the fences up, right? You actually committed as a mass crimes, massive crimes, right?
Massive numbers of crimes.
You have now kidnapped people. You are holding them against their will. You are keeping them away from their homes. You are doing
but
things
it's okay,
right.
Joe, because of
hold
racism.
On, hold on.
Racism means it's
the
okay.
moment they did that, these terrorists, and you make no mistake, you are a terrorist, became an enemy combatant. That's what you became. And so these guys coming in, trust me, you don't have enough guns. You don't have enough guns. There are people in Washington right now who are arming other people. They're arming people. These people are flying in. Like, they're just walking in. Hey, what are you here for? You know, they're just walking through, coming into Seattle, right? For the sole purpose of being armed by other people there that are already there saying, all right, here's your AR-15s. Let's go. See, what they think is going to happen is they want to turn this into a Kent state, right? That's what they want. They want to turn it into a Kent, right?
I want to be martyrs.
That's not what's going to happen. What's going to happen is Americans are going to stand up and neutralize you, and it's not going to be the police. The police aren't allowed in there, but you know who is? Special forces, ex-military guys, guys that are patriots and Americans.
I don't think someone says it's not going well, and on YouTube they commented it's not going well. LOL, what are you smoking? Okay, let's throw up the image again. Let's go to image number 4. This is their idea of a community. Oh no, that's cut.
What's
4.
not going
Let's go
well?
to image 4.
What's not going well?
Someone on YouTube saying that we must be smoking something and say it's not going well. This is how the CHAZ
I think that they're
itself.
probably talking about them smoking something, right? I think they're basically saying that it's not going well on their side. I can't imagine anybody, unless they are a fascist, there.
Well, there's a lot of trolls out there. I just want to know how the CHAZ is going to feed itself with a garden made primarily of herbs, grown on what I can only describe are a couple of bags of topsoil tossed on top of sheets of cardboard.
Hey, Thomas Price says no showering. No, Thomas, there's no showering. No showering.
Well, here's the good thing. That's their status quo. That's the liberals' base environment. No showering. So I think they're going to have a good time. But that's another thing you're going to see if this is truly an autonomous zone. you're going to see them lose access to electricity. You're going to see them lose access to water. If the mayor, if the governor actually had a backbone, I mean, that's why I say you don't actually need any gunfire. You cut off their access to food. You cut off their access to water. You cut off their access to electricity. And these people are going to go crying home to mommy, right? They're not farmers. They're not going to tame the urban jungle and make it actually produce enough food for them to live. Someone was going to donate them a cow. Thank God they didn't, because that cow would have been dead within a week. These people aren't going to win. It's pathetic. But what's even more pathetic,
they weren't going to donate a cow anyway. They weren't going to donate a cow. They were going to go steal one. They were going to go steal one.
Yeah. Someone was offering to donate a cow.
They were going to steal a cow. So they're going to donate a cow that they stole from somebody else, right? They're going to commandeer it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. This thing's going to fall apart. I mean, but what's pathetic?
It doesn't matter if it falls apart.
They're giving them enough space for this madness, and that's what's ridiculous, right? They shouldn't have enough time to fall apart. This thing should have been put down the minute that they forced the precinct to evacuate. The precinct never should have been ordered to evacuate.
So you ready for this?
That never should have happened. Sure, go ahead.
So this is from Josh, who's our producer, right? He's fired up about this too. He has family out there, right? He's fired up about it. So he said, you know, if they're enemy combatants, he's going through the list. He's a very smart guy, right? So going
Send
through
them to Gitmo?
No. Did they renounce their citizenship? They said you're exiting the United States, which means they would have had to renounce their citizenship, right? So they don't have
necessarily.
any.
Not necessarily. You don't have to renounce your citizenship to start in the country.
Inside of our country?
That would make them traitors. That would make them. That would be treason, right? It would make them traitors, but they would still be Americans.
All right. So then, do they have the same protections if they become enemy combatants? And I don't know that. If you're a lawyer, call us up, right? We'd love for you to call 888-441-1121.
If the CHAZ is autonomous, then the Constitution does not fully apply within the CHAZ.
And that was the conversation I had with these guys that are SF guys. They're like, if you won't do something, all right, what are you going to do? You're going to find peers that actually convict us of neutralizing these guys? Good luck. Good luck. And by the way, if you come after SF guys for neutralizing these terrorists, you don't think that there's going to be millions of other SF guys and military guys and patriots that don't take up arms? You want to see a war? These guys are starting a war, and they're a bunch of pansies. They're a bunch of pansies.
Here's what this is a video from a couple years ago, and I want to nominate this guy to be mayor of Seattle because this guy showed more courage in his pinky finger than the Democrats in office have today. This is what happened a couple weeks ago when protesters stormed into a university and started chanting their nonsense. Let's go to cut 6.
Who's got the power? We've got power. So what's got the power? People power. Who's got the power? We got the power. And what's got the power? People power. Who's got the power? We got power.
Hey! People power. Hey! This is library.
Yeah, love that guy.
I want that guy to be mayor.
Yeah,
right? He has more balls than the police that ran away from their precinct. Right? I want him manning that precinct. I want him there because he just showed you how easy it is. They all shut up when he said, "Hey, this is library." They stopped. Right? These people aren't revolutionaries. They're idiots. Right?
No.
All it takes is one person in a position of authority to tell them to stop, and they stop.
So
someone just needs to do it.
Yeah, I agree. We have a guy named Chad that said, "I wish I was ex-special forces now." And so Joe says, time to arm for the armed citizenry to stop the movement now. You're right, right? And Joe, every one of them should be arrested, every one of them. And then here's another comment. I see a green bean plant. That should feed a lot of people. Yes, Robert, that should feed a lot of people. I agree with you 100%. Yeah, it should.
Yeah, I was reading one, and he's like, I know nothing about farming, but I know this isn't farming. One guy says he sees a radish somewhere in there. That takes 3 weeks to grow. It's just like, what are you doing? These people are going to starve to death if they actually go through with this.
It's a true green movement. It's a true green movement. It's a green bean movement. It's a green bean movement.
Yeah, it is. I don't know. I've read that you can put down cardboard, but that's mainly to stop weeds and you're supposed to cut holes in the cardboard and plant the plants through the holes.
Through the holes.
These people didn't do it right at all. They
No.
literally just threw a bunch of cardboard and then
100%.
tried to plant crops
100%.
on top of cardboard. So
I just
dumb.
want to know why it is that people want to get upset at President Trump. How do you get upset with him? They're like, oh, he's dividing us. Dividing you? You have people that took over
the city.
Yeah, and put a fence around it. And then they extorted people there. They threatened people, and they're raping and robbing. They're raping women.
We don't know. We don't know if they're raping women. We just know that there are rapes being reported within the chat.
Yes, then you know what?
Within the immediate vicinity, because the precinct was closed. And I don't want to give the CHAZ the benefit of the doubt.
No,
but the actual report is that because the third precinct is closed, that means that overall police response times have increased. And the area in the CHAZ and around the CHAZ where the third precinct would have responded, there are rapes within that third precinct's response area that are going unresponded to. There are violent crimes, right? The violent crimes are up 300% because these idiots basically forced the third precinct to run away. So we don't know if the CHAZers are doing the raping. But
how did they come up with CHAZ anyway? Am I
are they
missing something?
CHAZers? Are they CHAZes?
CHAZerinis.
Is it like fish where CHAZ is both is CHAZ both like singular and plural? Is it like fish? One
it's
CHAZ,
gender
two
neutral.
CHAZ?
It's gender neutral.
It's definitely gender neutral.
Yeah.
We know that. We know that. We would not want to presume that CHAZers genders. I hate that. I hate CHAZ.
I can't even believe that we're even having the conversation. Like, are we seriously having this I feel like we are in an episode of South Park.
Oh, and there is an episode where I was going to play the clip, but I did not want to get copyright struck.
Wait, Chazine. Daniel said Chazine. We have a Chazine.
Chazine?
The
Chazian?
The Chazanites. The Chazanites.
Chazanites sounds like a really low-budget production of like biblical stories.
Did you see the fence? Hey, we have a lawyer on the call. And so we have a lawyer that is on the phone. I didn't get his name. Bring him in, please. All right.
Joe, it's Richard.
Hey, Richard, how are you? I saw you were the one. Are you the Richard that put a comment on a thing, or different Richard?
No, I'm Richard Satchel that was in your group earlier.
All right. So talk to me, Richard. Thanks for taking the call. You're a lawyer.
Yeah, and
right.
I'm a corporate lawyer, but I've got some thoughts on. You're talking about whether or not they've. They renounce their citizenship or what it is. And it's such a hazy area of law. I don't think that it matters at this point. They're on occupied U.S. soil. They can say it's occupied, but you go back and look at what happened during the Civil War and a whole bunch of other states, not just 6 city blocks, but entire states said, hey, we're now separate. And the Union military came in and said otherwise, and after it was all said and done, it went through the Supreme Court, and the court said you don't have the authority to leave. So the fact that a bunch of terrorists are now saying they're separate, I don't think it matters. They're still U.S. citizens. They can be treated as U.S. citizens.
But they're enemy combatants. Are they considered enemy combatants?
100%.
That's where it's hazier.
Yeah, so
that's where it's hazier.
Right? If you're raping and you're extorting from people and you're saying that people can come and go, can't come and go freely.
The problem is that we're talking about U.S. law and local law and state law that they're violating, right? You don't go after enemy non-combatants or enemy combatants for raping, right? They don't usually get charged with rape. They get charged with, or they don't even get charged, right? They just get kind of apprehended. We can't say that these people need to be prosecuted for the crimes they're committing and then also say that they're not committing crimes. You know what I mean? If you're an enemy combatant, then you wouldn't be charged with crimes. You can't hold them responsible for a crime without charging them with the crime. It's a ridiculous thought experiment because I don't believe that this is a country, right? These people can't even handle their own sanitation. I can't see anyone who would check off the boxes that they qualify for statehood.
Right. 100%.
100%. You've got to have enough people to make a movement legitimate. A few people that can't even plant their garden. I mean, they've got their one green bean plant. Wow. feed them all. They're stolen cow.
They could tie
there's
that.
no legitimacy there. And whatever they've done, game on, because they're representing the group of people that's going around and murdering cops and beating business owners to death and killing citizens around the country. And you know what? The special forces go in there and clean house. More power to
All
them.
right. So as a lawyer,
Citizens.
let me ask you this question. And I want to do this because it did come up in the call that I had with these ex-military guys, right? And some military guys, some that are actually current military. I don't know if they can actually participate, but it came up in the conversation is, do we have protection? Like, are we going to be protected? And they're afraid to ask the question. They want to beg for forgiveness later, right? But do they have protection under the law? Can they actually defend other Americans if they know for a fact, like I talked to my friend, they know for a fact they're being extorted, right? They're being harassed. They're being raped. I can't even imagine if there's any murders that happen. I got to believe that there's at least a few happening in that environment. Do they have protection? Are we talking about a place
we don't currently have an extradition treaty with the CHAZ. So theoretically, if they committed a crime on CHAZ soil and they got out, there's no requirement. You'd have to go to the embassy, I guess, to see. But I don't know of any extradition treaty that we have with the Republic of CHAZ.
Yeah, we need an embassy there. I can't speak for Washington law. In Colorado, I'm of the opinion at this point, with as violent as Antifa's been everywhere, and the fact that we know they're killing cops, you're pretty much justified in anything that you do right now, as long as you can say there's some sort of a threat. Going in there and creating the threat's a little bit different, but in a lot of states you have the ability to defend someone else, and it really depends on the state.
Well, it's an open carry law. They have open carry there, so I got to believe if they have open carry that there is some sort of stand your ground and ability to protect another human life, right? I got to believe that.
Yeah, but so the difference is are you protecting someone based on your belief or their belief? And the courts will apply it differently depending on the state. I really don't know what it is there. But in this case, I would think you could prove that every single person inside there has a reasonable belief, if they're not part of the mob, that they are scared for their life right now.
Yeah.
And you can defend someone else. If
I'm doing some reading.
I can walk up and shoot the person that's doing it.
I'm doing some reading, and again, I'm not a lawyer for Washington either, but it looks like they do have a stand your ground law, or at least a no duty to retreat, a general rule of thumb that if you're attacked, you're allowed to defend yourself. You're not expected to run away first or try to run away first, and you're allowed to use self-defense in defense of others, but only use a reasonable amount of force necessary to protect the other person. And the same with property. You can't use more force. Yeah.
They're using guns.
Yeah. Again, though, we don't know what the Parliament of CHAZ has decided with their own self-defense rights, though. So, as we say for anyone who's going to bring a gun overseas, make sure you know the gun laws of where you're going.
But we can make some assumptions of what the prosecutors here will do, right? When we extradite them back to, well, I don't know if I call Washington part of the U.S. anymore anyway, but...
Look, there's a lot of people there that are scared. They're scared.
Yeah, there are. So, well, here's the problem. Okay, so you got the city council that actually let these people into the building. So they've committed treason, too, because they've joined with an actual insurrection, an armed insurrection.
Right. 100%.
But if we can see that the city council is on board, we don't know right now. We make assumptions that the prosecutor is going to go through with their oath of office and actually uphold the Constitution. But just look at the judges around the country on how bastardized the Constitution is right now from what it's supposed to be.
Right.
So, let's just assume that the prosecutor actually cares about his oath of office and actually cares about doing what's right and upholding the law.
Right.
Well, every state that I'm aware of has what's called felony murder. So if you commit, it's called a Barks crime. So burglary, arson, robbery, rape, kidnapping. Used to be sodomy, but that's gone. But if someone dies when you're doing one of those crimes, you are guilty of their murder. So whatever the special forces guys come in and do, someone else is going to bear the the punishment for that
Right.
if the prosecutor
Right.
will go through and do his job.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
here's and is it federal or is it state? And does does it rise to the level of, as my friend said, terrorism? Right. He actually has a business in that 6 city blocks, and he said we're being terrorized, Joe. We're being terrorized.
So
and
we go to
false
the
imprisonment.
regulations
How about
for
false
the-
imprisonment? Because they're putting up barriers.
all of those.
Right. I mean,
All of those.
if you, I'm going to tell you something. I hope some of these little anarchist little punks are actually on here listening. Right. Here's what I want to tell you. If you are, first of all, I pray for you, because if you're the one holding that AR-15 on your chest and you've never served and you don't know how to use that gun, you're going to, when they neutralize you because you have that gun on your chest, you're a target. So if you're one of those guys on the border, man, you need to go ahead and go home now, because you're the first one to go down to get neutralized, for number one. And number two, if you're on that border and you're stopping people from coming in or out of that area, you are imprisoning people. You are not making a choice for them that they are free to go as free citizens to and from. When you walk into a business, please tell me if I'm right. Am I right, Robert? Am I right? Richard, Richard, am I right?
Richard, yeah.
Okay, so
you're right.
So if that is true, the crimes are stacking up on you right now.
Oh,
They
yeah,
are
you could send them
they
away.
are stacking up.
You could send them away just on the traffic violations.
Let's look at them walking into the building. So, in a lot of states they've gone to, there's the old common law burglary where you have to intend to commit a felony.
Right.
But a lot of states have moved to where burglary just means you're intending to commit a crime. If you walk in the building and say, I'm going to make you pay me, you're a burglar. Anything you do, you're guilty of that. So whatever happens, back to felony murder, back to a lot of other problems.
Right.
So then let's move through terrorism. Well, you go to the FBI's regulations. Terrorism is defined as using threat or force or threat of force,
right,
in order to coerce someone into social or political change. Well, look at that list of just garbage complaints or demands, whatever, that they released the other day. I think there were like 30 things.
Yeah.
Every black person that's incarcerated has to be retried, because we can now assume that 100% of the black people that are incarcerated had an unfair trial.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a social change they're going for. The first thing they put on that list made it terrorism, because then it shows like we're actually doing this to affect a change. So then you go back to the law and whether or not you can defend somebody. Well, someone's committing terrorism in every state that I'm aware of. Kill him.
Yeah, well, I don't want to advocate for violence. That's not what I want to do on this show. I don't want to do that. But I'm going to tell you,
yourself in a self-defense scenario, you'd probably have the law on your side.
Well, Max, we talked about this. I am armed. I go everywhere armed, right? I am armed. I have cameras at my house. I have cameras at my business. Yeah, thank you for your call, Richard. We appreciate you. But Max, I'm armed, right? Everywhere I go. I've had death threats.
Yeah.
I've had people that have said, lots of things about me, even though I've been accused of, hey, Joe, are you really a conservative? Yes, I'm a conservative. I'm pro-life. Never apologize for it. I'm pro-for border. I fit the mold of a conservative. But are you going to be able to pin me down and make me choose a side when it comes to my black brothers and sisters or my minority brothers and sisters that are out there, being that my family is interracial? You think I'm going to abandon them? I'll never abandon them. I'll never say that there's some truths out there, the things that we need to fix, right?
But that's not what this is. That's not what this is.
No, it's not. But I want to be very clear. People have said stuff like, hey, Joe, I can't believe you would not agree with me 100% here. That's the problem. I don't have to agree with you 100%, right? Because I'm a conservative and I believe that everyone has free thought and free right, right? But what's happening there now, what's happening in Seattle, is a direct contradiction to everything we fought for over the last couple hundred years. It just is, right? And you can say whatever you want. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
I love this comment from Daniel. He says we should call them the CHAZistas.
CHAZistas. I saw that. I had to laugh at that.
I think that is perfect. That is perfect, and it's the Banana Republic of CHAZ.
Right.
I love that. I think that's perfect. We're going to go with CHAZistas.
So check this out. You got a guy named Mark that says, I live outside of Seattle, and this is disgusting. I'm sorry, Mark. I'm sorry that you're having to deal with this. I'm sorry you live in a state. And I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat, right? The traditional nature of that push-pull in politics and in beliefs, right? That ideological difference that we've had for hundreds of years has actually what has made this country thrive. And so when we get to the point where we are so divided and the chasm becomes so big and it's over things that normally we could have a conversation about, that is when we have a problem. Nobody on any side of the aisle right now that's even remotely logical would agree with the loony left, right? This
not
fanatic group of people, the AOCs of the world, the Omar or whatever.
Ilhan
Omar. And whatever the other one is from Minnesota.
Rashida Tlaib, you got Ilhan Omar, you got Ayanna Pressley, and you've got Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Or occasional Cortex, as I like to call it.
Yeah, we've got to get to the point at some point where we just throw these people out. And if you're a Democrat not throwing them out, you don't have any courage. And by the way, courage is as infectious as fear. I've said it forever. Courage is as infectious as fear. When we have to have ex-military guys that get together, right, on a wire and say, listen, I just want you to know we're coming. When they say that, and the chatter's out there, I'm not the only one that knows about it. The chatter's out there, and then you have the president saying, listen, you either solve this deal or I'm going to. Do you think the president's going to just announce that I'm sending someone to Seattle? You think that's what he's going to do? No.
Well, so technically, to invoke the Insurrection Act, the president is required to give an order to disperse. It doesn't say how it has to happen. He could technically go out on the lawn of the White House and shout it, and that would, I guess, as long as someone else heard it and reported it. But he does have to technically give an order to disperse. And without such an order, the president cannot lawfully invoke the Insurrection Act.
Right.
So he would have to give them a warning. You have to give them a time frame to leave. But if they were to go against such a time frame, go against such a lawful order to disperse, then it would be game on. But he would have to give at least some forewarning. You can't just have Blackhawks landing on top of their little garden in the dead of night.
They don't have to. These little punks, what are they going to do? Shoot at them? That'll end quickly. What are you going to shoot at them? You're going to throw Molotov cocktails? They're not coming in with tear gas. I'm going to tell all you little punks, they're not going to come in with tear gas. And the ex-military guys, they're not even going to announce that they're there. You're not even going to know it until you have people on rooftops that are knocking in teeth. Look, I do not advocate for violence. I do not 100% advocate for violence. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you don't think that this is going to cause a violent reaction, you just are not that bright. And they're not that bright. So maybe they think that somebody's going to start throwing candy canes into them and I don't know. What do you think, Max? Come in there with teddy bears and unicorns?
Yeah. To candy canes, I cannot speak to the dietary policy of the Republic of CHAZ. I don't know what their food pyramid looks like. I'm sure that they have bureaucrats working on that night and day. What their food pyramid's going to look like.
Maybe they have Big Pharma working on it for them. They can have Big Pharma come in there and say, "Hey, we'll write a bill for you. The bill of CHAZ. We'll get this approved."
I have a feeling it's going to be something paleo. It's going to be something with a soy based or some kind of veggie meat substitute.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see a lot of Beyond Burgers or whatever it's called.
Beyond Burgers.
You're gonna listen. The soy boys are going to want to eat soy. We know that. The problem is they don't have. They can't grow. Listen, if you're gonna try and take over land and create a country, don't come in with a laundry list of foods that you're not comfortable eating. Right. One person asked a question in the comment section, is it true that they've started eating rats? I don't know. But considering the fact that they're asking for vegan food, I find it highly suspect that these vegans in just a couple of days have resorted to eating the rats. But you know what? Maybe. Who knows?
Are you ready for this?
Sure. And then we got to wrap it up.
This is a comment. No, we're not going to wrap it up. We're going to go a little bit longer because this is actually This is a fascinating conversation. So a person in here said, bottom line, oh, crap, it just disappeared. He's ex-military. Where is that comment? Daggone it. All right, Stan, where you at, buddy?
It might have gotten deleted for advocating violence.
No, it didn't advocate violence. He said, I took an oath to defend my country. He's an ex-Army guy, right? And I'm going to tell you, Stan, I can't read it because it's actually the comment, flew by me here. But I'm going to tell you, I agree with you, and you're a military. Thank you for your service, number one. And number two, I want to tell you you're right. You took an oath. And I think that was what came out of this call is that oath does not end when you exit service. It does not end. And what these people in CHAZ don't understand, the CHAZitas.
I can't take it. Right? The CHAZistas. I can't take it seriously. When we're getting fired up, like if these people in CHAZ don't get these are college kids.
They're not college kids. They're not college kids. They're professors.
Many of them are.
They're professors.
Yeah.
I mean, let's call it what it is.
I can't take it seriously.
The education system has been hijacked.
I can't take a demand against the Republic of CHAZ seriously. I just can't.
Okay,
they never should have gotten this far.
You ready for this? Then he goes, CHAZ is the best campaign advertising for Trump. And then it says, Ryan goes, do they have DoorDash border crossing? Okay, Ryan, you win. You win. You have won the prize of the day.
I want to know if Uber Eats is waiving the delivery fees for restaurants in CHAZ, right?
Yeah.
Because they made news when they were waiving the delivery fees for African American owned businesses, which is illegal. I mean, you're not allowed to discriminate on the basis of someone's race. I want to know what Uber's policy is for the CHAZ. We should start pressuring businesses to come out with press releases. They put out a press release whenever Trump says anything. Like Trump talked about research into disinfectant, and Clorox put out a statement, don't drink the bleach. It's stupid stuff. I want to know where all these big companies are with CHAZ. I want to know what their official position is, right? I want to know what L'Oreal thinks about CHAZ.
You're right, Chad. Some people are hostages, by the way. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I just want to know. I love how these big businesses are silent when we have CHAZ, but they'll use any example, any opportunity to criticize the president.
Sure, we got another caller.
Oh, we got another caller.
Yeah, we got another caller. So this, and the fascinating part about all this, by the way, is that we're having a conversation about Humphalump. We're having a conversation about South Park, The Simpsons. Like, this is everything that was a cartoon.
This is a Family Guy episode. It's
absolutely.
Pretoria.
The
Family Guy episode where he creates his own country.
Okay, so this guy wants to talk about the CHAZ. Come on, what's your name, sir?
This is Kevin.
Hey, Kevin, how are you?
Pretty good. So what I want to say about CHAZ is we need less CHAZ and more Chad.
Chad. Okay. All right. Tell me more.
I mean, oh, man, it's just we're living in an alternate universe. How did Seattle become like this Antifa hotbed? Why is Seattle such a dump? It's like the hipster area with a bunch of communist Antifa folks. What made this area? Is there like history that goes back?
Well, I'll tell you. It's not even that far. If you look at the riots just from the last couple of years, where you had Antifa people throwing milkshakes with cement in them, beating conservatives with bike locks, you saw that even though they had them on video, they weren't prosecuted for the crimes. People were sent to the hospital because they were beaten within an inch of their life by Antifa. And the perpetrators, even though they had them on video, they weren't prosecuted. So it doesn't take all that long for people to realize that cities like Seattle are very friendly to their movement, and they can get away with more than they would in other cities. There's a reason they're not doing this in Texas. It's pretty obvious.
Yep.
The reason they're not doing this in Florida, they're doing it where they think they can get away with it. And unfortunately, over the last couple of years, Seattle and Washington as a state have proven that they're not interested in prosecuting these people.
Yeah.
I think another aspect is Seattle isn't that where like that grunge music style came out of?
That's true. Yeah.
It's like that grunge, like hippie, dirty, heroin, freaking drug addict type of, I don't know, lifestyle came out of it, seems like. And when you have that type of lifestyle, they glorify, of course, their heroes like Kurt Cobain. He was like a hardcore lefty goofball.
Yeah.
So
that's where that music came from. That kind of area. I don't know if it was Seattle or Portland, but definitely in that
area for sure. Yeah,
Pacific Northwest is where grunge music started. Yeah. I don't know if grunge is the official music of the CHAZistas. I can't say that. Someone else says we should call it Chazistan, the Chazistanis. That's another way we could do it. I don't know what I don't know their anthem. Right? They haven't come out with their anthem. Maybe it's Smells Like Teen Spirit. I don't know. But I think they're going to have a hard time figuring out an anthem because they also don't know how to feed themselves.
We are the world. We are the world. Can't
Don't
say
sing
it.
it.
Can't do it.
Don't
Can't
sing
do
it.
it. Hey, I stopped there. Hey, thanks for calling in. We definitely appreciate you calling in. Hey, so Max, that I know we should take this seriously because there are people that are actually hurting right now, right? They are hurting.
Oh, there are, but
Right.
it's so dumb. But it also reveals that if conservatives tried to do this, and we can go through history and we can show the examples where conservatives tried to take over buildings.
Right.
Just what was it? The Bundys. They tried to. They were accused of taking over a nature preserve in the middle of winter, and even though it was closed and there was no one there, they took over this nature preserve. And someone got killed. The officers actually killed one of them. I think it was at least one. They got killed as they were leaving it. They were accused of terrorism. They were prosecuted, all for basically squatting inside of an off-season nature preserve. These people are literally cordoning off 6 city blocks. They forced the police out. If there was justice, they would get the same response that we saw with the nature preserve, right?
Right.
Or the Bundy standoff, right? If there was justice, you'd see the same kind of response. But what's true is the government's only interested in taking the hammer down on people if you're a conservative. If you're a liberal, you have a long leash to be able to break the law before you actually are held accountable. Right, you have a very long leash. You look at what's happening in New York, where they were releasing the rioters from jail because of their bail reform law. So people were rioting, they were arraigned out, and they were rioting the very next night. That's why they had such a hard time getting that under control for a couple of days, because it was just a endless circle where no one was actually being held accountable. If these were conservatives. Listen, conservatives couldn't even rally inside of the Capitol building in Michigan peacefully without being called terrorists. What do you think would happen if they actually tried to say, oh, no, we consider ourselves to be unincorporated. We're declaring independence. Oh, they would come down so hard on them.
100%.
But because these people are liberal, because they're communists, because they're the Chazistas,
Yeah.
they're being handled with kid gloves.
And kid gloves. That's not even the right way to describe it, Max. It's not kid gloves. They're being allowed to act like spoiled brats and do whatever they want, right? As if that's the way the world works. The world doesn't work this way. In every other country in the world, by the way, they would be seen as, and we're being seen as weak. Like people in Russia, talk about Russia, and other countries, they're literally laughing at us because we're letting these clowns walk around with guns on their chest. I promise you, there's not one of these Chazistas that knows how to break down that AR that's on his chest. Not one of them.
Yeah.
Not one of them.
Ryan just wrote in, speaking of nature preserve, maybe Carol Baskin can help. That's a good idea. maybe she would have a maybe we get some of their tigers and see what happens. No, it's so objectively stupid what's happening. And if it was happening with anyone else, anywhere else, these people would already be in jail.
100%.
But because listen, the mayor of Seattle, instead of actually condemning what's happening, she said as long as she can remember, Capitol Hill has always been an autonomous zone where people can go and have free expression. That was, instead of actually condemning them forcing the police to flee for their lives, right? And say, oh, well, no, it's always been autonomous. This is really no different than it always was as I was growing up. No one believes that, right? They're feeding you propaganda because they're so terrified they're actually going to be revealed to be the frauds who aren't doing their jobs.
I don't know how police officers can stay in their positions of trust and authority to do the things to keep the peace with this. I'm trying to figure out what next month looks like. It's like every single month says, hold my beer. Every month's like, oh, what?
Yeah.
It's March?
It's 2020.
April's like, hold my beer.
Yeah.
And then May's like, oh, hold my beer. And then June's like, what? Let me just show you what's going to happen. Hold my beer.
Yeah. Enter CHAZ. CHAZ has entered the discussion.
Chazistas.
Chazistas. Chazistan, the Chazistanis. I don't know. I like Chazistas. It sounds more revolutionary. No, you're right. Every month, and this is by design, right? Every single month between now and the election, there's going to be a new scandal. Black
Right.
Lives Matter only ever trends. If you look at the Google keyword searches,
Yep,
Black
during
Lives
election
Matter
years.
only ever trends during election years. That's by
Which
design.
is a shame. Which is a shame.
It's a shame, but it's
And it
by
shows
design.
you,
They're
by
being
the
used.
way, it shows you, by the way, how they've been hijacked. I want to point something out. I know that this is probably diverting a little bit, and I don't want to take anything away from the CHAZ. I think we're not giving enough fair airtime here. But I'm gonna go and just I want to tell you that they're on Black Lives Matter's website, right? If you go there and you go to donate and you give the money and you look in there, it actually is going to a Democratic Party, right? And they're distributing that money. Yeah, through Act Blue. And they're distributing that money to Biden, to Bernie Sanders. And I'm not talking, right? I'm not talking millions. I'm talking hundreds of millions.
Yeah. So yes and no. So the way that Act Blue works is that, yes, you can donate to Act Blue, and then Act Blue will also decide where that money goes. What also happens is Act Blue is primarily the payment processor. So a lot of those donations, what you're seeing is you're seeing the Biden campaign, the Sanders campaign using Act Blue to process their payments.
Right.
Yes, there is money that goes to Act Blue. The Act Blue is then has discretion to share, but a lot of it also is when Black Lives Matter is using an Act Blue landing page for their donations, that's Act Blue processing it for them so they don't have to do it on their own. So it's yes and no. A lot of it is going to the Democrat Party, but a lot of that is also because the Democrat Party is using Act Blue as a payment processor.
I'm certain that there's some sort of split on revenue for the money coming in.
Oh, there is, and that's the whole thing. Basically, they set it up so you can only donate so much to a political candidate before it becomes illegal, right? So they have it set up, and all fundraising is done like this at high levels. You donate $1,000 or $100, and it's split to go $10 here, $10 there, $10 there. They split it out, right? So you can donate $1 to every candidate if you want through Act Blue. That's how it's kind of designed.
Right. Yeah, it has just gotten to the point where we are having conversations as a society about what could create what more amount of stupidity could we actually engage in today, right? And I want to say it again. 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 If the Chazistas, Chazistanians, whatever you want to call them.
I just saw another one I really like, the Chastapo.
Chastapo.
I like that one.
Chastapo.
I like that one.
I like that one. If they think this is going to end well for them, it's not. Two things are going to happen. One, these ex-military guys are going to come in and annihilate you. And I you know what, I actually.
And no one actually wants that to happen.
Nobody
wants
that to happen.
Go home and just.
No, we actually want
this.
you to go get a job. That's what we wanted to do. We wanted to become a productive part of society. Stop blaming the world. Stop whitewashing history. Stop acting like the world owes you something. Stop doing all of that. Go get a job, right? Be a productive part of society. Go get married, if anyone will have you. Have kids.
And if you can't, you can always build license plates from prison.
Right.
That's a nice little compromise.
Yeah, but there's only a couple options here. Number one, you are actually holding people against their will. You are going to get yourself killed, right? For this, you're going to get yourself killed. You think you've come to a man's fight with toys. That's the first thing that happens. The second that's going to happen is you're going to be charged and you're going to spend 10 to 20 years of your life in prison. And by the way, the people that you meet in prison, they're not in Chazistan, right? Or Chastapo. They're not there. Some of those people are violent criminals, and you are going to become their little boy or girl.
Yeah, they're not in prison for LARPing. They're in prison for actually committing real crimes.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm going to tell you that you're going to spend a couple decades behind bars. And no amount of anything is going to get you away from that because you have two levels that you can commit crimes at. One's a state level, right, local in the state, and the other one's at a federal level. So if the state does not prosecute you, the feds will, and they will come.
And there are plenty of crimes. There are plenty of federal crimes here.
Oh yeah, 100%. So all the crimes that you're committing right now, thinking that it's okay because we're doing it in a mob mentality, no, they're going to come for you one by one. And by the way, no one's going to show up for your trial. No one's going to care for you. They're not going to create soy lattes for you in the gallery while you get prosecuted, right? There's not going to be someone donating milk to you or donating. And here's another thing, Max. You ready for this? When you
milk is racist. You know that, right?
When you do
milk
get to prison,
they don't drink milk.
when you do get to prison, the food that you're going to have to eat No, nobody's going to donate
it's
money.
Not gonna be, it's not going to be a vegan meat substitute. Let's just say that.
You're going to have to eat what you eat, right?
I love this post from, I love this comment from Lisa. She says, stop. When you ask how much lower the Democrats can go, they take that as a challenge and always go lower.
Okay, maybe that's a bad idea then. Maybe we should have a, and we're laughing about it. We're laughing at the absolute ridiculousness that we're facing. At the same time, we're like, go in and whoop some butt.
I just think it's, I still can't get over that they call themselves CHAZ.
Yeah. I
mean, that's what I'm laughing about. I mean, it's like, you can't take it seriously. Okay, we're gonna declare independence. We're gonna secede from the country. Okay, what are we gonna call ourselves? CHAZ.
Yeah, so CHAZ. And Larry said it's too late for them to go home. They need to pay the consequences for their actions. Larry, you're absolutely correct. 100%. You're 100% right. Yeah. You're 100% right. So the Banana Republic of Chazistan.
They could go home and we can arrest them there.
The comments are actually stacking up. We are actually giving a give with the Chazinistas. Great ideas for their country. The Banana Republic of Chazistan. That's a good one. Yeah. Right? We're going to have a lot of fun with this. So, all right, look, this has been fun. We've had, we kind of went over by a lot. I do appreciate everybody paying attention. Here's what I want to tell you to do, right? I'm going to tell everyone, Max, you have to share. Keep sharing, 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 sharing. The voice of reason has to get out there. We have to actually become a voice that people, that they connect with, that they understand they're not alone. See, people feel like they're alone because all the media does is just tell them what they think the world really thinks, and it's not true. It's not true.
So definitely hit that share button. Also, do subscribe. If you don't already follow our page, do follow the page. If you don't already follow our page, do follow the page and make sure that you subscribe. We're available on Google Play Store as well as Apple Podcasts if you like to listen. We also live stream here on Facebook as well as YouTube daily, Monday through Friday. So you can find us there. Do share, do like, do comment, do subscribe, do follow us, and we'll make sure that this gets in front of you as we do more of these. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks, Joe. As always, my name is Max McGuire with Joe Otto. And remember that the fight to take back our country is not over, but the only way we can win is if we all fight together.